I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. The invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Robert Kalil. Be sure and watch my films. Doors of Perception is on Amazon Prime. Occult Louisiana is on Tubi, Roku, Apple, and a few more. We're booking guests for February. If you have suggestions or maybe you'd like to be a guest, email me forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Be sure to visit our website, forbiddenknowledge.news. It is the home of the Forbidden Knowledge Network. We feature some of your favorite podcasts and content creators. Today I want to welcome back to the show Robert Kalil. He is host of the Typical Skeptic podcast, which is a non-biased exploration of ufology, secret space, hidden history, conspiracy, and the nature of reality. Robert, welcome back. How you doing?
Oh, this is awesome. I'm so excited to be on Forbidden Knowledge News. I think I told you this. I say this every time I'm on your show. I was a fan since 2018. I used to watch your show before I even had a podcast, I remember, it's interesting. I remember when you used to do the weather updates. Like, you remember that where you would have like the natural disasters going off and stuff like that? I remember following that. That was interesting, man. I used to follow you that far back.
Yeah, that was in the very beginning. So much has changed, and thank you so much for that. Just in the past 5 years, seems we have collectively experienced not only rapid technological changes, but frequent high-impact psychological events and gaslighting on a scale that I don't believe I've ever seen in my lifetime, especially from our own government and world leaders. I understand we experience these cyclical periods of unrest and upheaval, but there's an obvious fundamental change from generation to generation as it relates to the degradation of intelligence and morality. And 2025 was quite the dumpster fire of events. I look forward to 2026. Maybe we'll finally get that fake alien invasion. Who knows? We've also lost many fellow researchers and people that are involved in the truth community, some under questionable circumstances. So lots to get into. Before we do, it's been a little while. Remind the audience a little bit about yourself and let them know how they can find out more.
Yeah, I'm Robin with the Typical Skeptic podcast. I like to investigate. I like to investigate everything. Everything conspiracy based or UFO related or paranormal, supernatural. I don't get too much into politics, but I like the woo. I love talking about the woo. But I realize that politics ties into it sometimes, so I guess we got to go there. But I like it when it's tied into conspiracies usually. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And I've been building a following. I got taken down off YouTube just like you, and then I started to rebuild, and now I'm on YouTube, Rumble. I have a small Odyssey channel and audio. So yeah, and it's pretty easy to find. But yeah, it's coming along, I guess you could say.
Right on, man. Well, again, thank you for coming back, and thank you for filling in with such late notice. That is greatly appreciated. So what are your thoughts on the past year, where we're at technologically, psychological operations, the amount of deaths we've experienced within our community? What are your thoughts on it?
It's crazy. There was 2 people that died that's somewhat in the community that that was questionable circumstance. There was Renetta Jones, who I think you had her on your show. She had some really interesting information. And then James Rink, he was a lot of people know who he was. He was the founder of Super Soldier talking, whether, a lot of times people say, well, some of the stuff he shared was out there. I think he was still trying to fight for truth. And what was weird was, like, people said that he got directed at his conference, like something had happened at his conference that,
Some
but
kind
like
of
what was
directed
interesting
energy
was they
weapon or
were friends.
something, from what I understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But like he also had, like, I mean, to look at it from a skeptical perspective, he had a heart condition
Oh,
as
okay.
well. Like I don't think he was accepting mainstream medicine at all. Like he wanted to just do
Hmm.
alternative. And he had some kind of thyroid and heart issue going on or something like that. I think it was Graves' disease, but I still think that people are being targeted, like, which is really strange because when you start to talk about targeting, people might think you're crazy, but like, I feel like I wanted to write a book called Targeted by the Matrix because I feel like there's like elements of this matrix that, like, kind of will bring people down. Like, if you asked me, like, I felt like I was, like, affected by stuff like that before I even had a podcast. I just feel like I don't know if it's the simulation or the environment of the world that we're in that tests us because maybe we're here for
Hmm.
that, or if it's something more nefarious and it's like like we talk about the archons or the demiurge or entities, deemed demonic forces. It could be all that. I'm kind of open to it, but it does seem like people were messed with and gaslit and targeted and all that stuff.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into that. Before we do, you mentioned Renetta Jones. For those that may not be familiar, could you tell us a little bit about her, and are you aware of the circumstances behind her death?
A little bit, but like, like I actually I talked to her mom,
Hmm.
like, but her mom's like she's a very Christian lady, she doesn't believe too much in the conspiracy stuff, but like Renetta was posting up until the day she died that, like, she was being targeted,
Hmm.
I mean, like, she was posting it on her YouTube and stuff like that, and she felt that she, just like James Rink, she felt like she had been in these programs. Now, I can't say she was a super soldier for sure. I can't verify that. But like, I can say that she had some really interesting stuff. Like, she came on my show and she was talking about, like, the galactic slave trade, which, like, other people like Carrie Cassidy have referenced that, like, people are being taken off world to other planets and, to build whatever
Hmm.
civilizations. Well, Netta talked a little bit about that, and she talked about that, like, not just like space programs, but like undersea programs, like shit that was going on under the sea. And she showed like X-rays during the one podcast of like supposed implants that were in her head. I still have it on my channel. It's insane. And then she said these frequencies were being controlled by the FCC, and then also that these were going to the Marianas Trench and out to space,
Hmm.
which is like, it's hard to believe. I know it's out there, but I'm not gonna, but I mean, like, it's interesting for sure, but like, everybody that's watched that episode, they're like, wow, seemed like she was onto something, but like, and then it's just weird that she was targeted. Like, her and James knew each other. We were all supposed to do an event together, and it fell through, and like, it's just weird that they're both now passed away.
Right.
It's really strange.
And I am not too familiar with the circumstances surrounding either of those. I was aware of who James was and his work, and I did take a look at some of his work in the months and years previous to him getting really sick, and there was quite a difference in the way he physically looked in a very short amount of time, it seems. And from what others have said, the possibility that he was targeted by some kind of directed energy weapon at a conference where he was supposedly giving some pretty crucial information. Is that right?
Well, yeah, but like, what I was thinking was this: like, I can't verify that these people. I don't want to come on and say that I can say that James and Renetta were like
Right,
definitely in
right.
programs. I don't do that, but like, it seems like they were involved in something. But I think what I honestly think is, I think the government or whoever's involved in these black ops programs or whoever. They're never going to admit that there's a secret space program. That I'm sure they don't even call it that if
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what it is. They're never going to admit to being, to manipulating people. They're never going to admit to targeting people. They're never going to admit to putting people in weird predicaments or whatever like that. So, I can't say that they were ever in space, but like it seems like they did have something happen to them, but I just don't know
Hmm.
what. To look at it from a skeptical point of view, like it seems like there was something going on there, but like I'm just not sure exactly what it was, and like and I question if we'll ever
Right.
know, the real
Well,
truth.
let's talk a little bit about the possibilities of being targeted in any way by whether it be the government, some shadow agency, or even spiritual intelligences, which I think all are very possible. I've had several guests that have claimed to be involved in some of these programs, MK Ultra programs, Secret Space, or otherwise. And more often than not, they are accompanied by gang stalking and a whole range of exotic weapons and being gaslit. Very nefarious actions seem to be taken against some of these people, or at least they claim this is happening to them, and I don't know why they'd have any reason to lie about any of that. But I can say from my personal experience, I never felt like I was targeted in any way, but I can say when I was not in a good state of mind, when I was emotionally or mentally down, when I was dealing with something very hard in my life, it seemed like everything else that came after would be even harder, that I was being, in a sense, targeted by the universe, by everything bad. And that's what my focus would be on. It seems that when we're stuck in situations like that, dark situations, that it's difficult for us to perceive anything outside of that. And it tends to attract, whether it's intelligences or just some kind of dark energy or egregores, it does seem to perpetuate and attract that kind of energy and causes people to stay in that state of mind for an unhealthy amount of time. One of the best examples of this targeting was documented by Robert Guffey in the book Chameleon. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but I've talked about this several times. The gentleman was targeted by these military groups, and he experienced everything from gang stalking to UFOs to paranormal experiences. And from what I understand, the technology that they use for this is extremely advanced. And like you said earlier, there would be no way to validate or prove that any of this is really happening. But I do think the spiritual targeting is very real. But I do also think that we have a lot more of a hand in that than many people would like to admit, that we have a lot more control over that. But what are your thoughts?
I can tell you an example of someone that comes on my show. I'm actually really close
Hmm.
with him. Like I consider him a really good friend. It's Touchdown Tommy
I've had him
Edwards.
on,
Have you ever
yeah,
had him?
a while back.
Yeah, he has a really interesting story, right? Like he played football for Virginia Tech, and both him and his dad, they set records there, and then like he started speaking out against CTE, and he started getting targeted. Which if you think about it, if you go after CTE, that's going after college football, that's
Mm,
going after high school football. That's kind of what America's made after. You know what I mean? Like it's like nobody wants to expose what's going on with that because I could what I'm saying is I could see why they would target him, but then he found out that his grandmother had some kind of weird like crypto clearance. She was involved in like black ops programs, and he thought that maybe he was being subjected to stuff as a kid too. But then more recently, he's experiencing like really weird stuff. Like I believe he has Morgellons. And he showed me a picture one time of the Morgellons on his shower wall. Like, that's where you get that like stuff
yeah.
that comes out of your skin. You know what I mean? And like it's just like he experiences stuff that like it's like when I say like I'm targeted, like I feel like I get weird shit happen with my technology and like finances and like stuff that I really can't explain. Like sometimes I'll go outside and I'll see someone out there that like doesn't make sense, but I don't make a big deal of it. But like the shit that happens to him is like next level. It's like holy shit. Like I think one time he found like Russian Cyrillic on his phone, or like he had a website that was dedicated to his CTE, and like he had a foundation for Virginia Tech. Like he was reaching out for people for mental health awareness. He was trying to fight for mental health awareness, and someone got into his website and turned it all into Russian Cyrillic.
Whoa.
I mean, it's like, so like stuff that happens to him is like, and he also feels like he's hit with like directed energy weapons, and like he can go into like all the stuff about like how they're targeting people with like like nanotechnology, and then like also like he talks about the W band, which is like the wireless internet body that somehow that's connected to all this as well. And but then he said that he had talked to a guy. There's this guy. His name is Robert Duncan. That he was like really doing like a lot of investigating into this targeting, and I'm trying to think of what they call it. There's a guy named Jesse Beltran. Jesse Beltran. He studies the Havana syndrome and the targeting, and they do testing on people as well. So it seems like people are. But then Robert Duncan, it looks like he was murdered a little bit, or it's not. I can't verify that, but it's there was something up with him. And then that Jesse Beltran, they're doing tests on people now. That it seems like what I'm saying is it seems like people are starting to bring stuff to the surface about what might be going on. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, you mentioned the frequency technology. In my town, which it's probably the same in every town across America, on every corner they have new devices hooked up to either street lamps or fake trees. I don't even know what they are. I used to be able to tell what the 5G devices are. Now there's these new ones with blinking lights and all kinds of technology on literally every street corner. And if this is for some kind of widespread frequency band, they've got the whole town covered. They probably have the entire United States covered. Some believe that what they're setting up is a national infrastructure for this frequency technology so that they can not only control sickness and health, but possibly what we're seeing and hallucinations, and cause a wide variety of negative effects in people, not only with their health, but with their mental state and emotional state. So if that's true, if we're already reached a point where this is widespread enough for them to utilize this technology remotely and cause people to have psychosis and believe that aliens are visiting them or whatever they're capable of doing through this, again, there would be no way for us to tell. We would never be able to know the origin of whatever is plaguing people as it relates to the technology.
I agree. There's another thing going on too. It's really strange. It's these data centers. Have you looked into this? Like, I'll tell you what I know a little bit is like this girl, Amanda Joan O'Hart, she comes on my show and she was talking about that she's fighting against these data centers in her local town, which is Ohio, but they're popping up like that. I looked it up on the internet. They're making them here too. Supposedly they use a lot of power and a lot of water, but I'm not sure exactly what they're for. But like the government's putting them up everywhere. They're data centers for some reason. Like, and it's really fishy. I don't know if that ties into it too, but like what's weird is it makes me think that like they're setting up like a mass surveillance network,
I think you're referring to these massive AI data mining facilities that use more power than entire cities at times just to run some of these facilities, which is absolutely insane. But you're right, who knows what they're doing with this. AI has already reached a point to where, sadly, in my perspective, video evidence of any kind is no longer valid because you can no longer tell what is real and what isn't. Even with some AI software, from what I understand, isn't able to tell the difference between some of these fake AI images and what's real out there. So unfortunately, those that say have made their living previously on analyzing video evidence of any kind, good luck with that in the future. It's pretty interesting how fast that's all unfolding.
I know it's scary, right? It's like I don't know if you've seen this. I'll scroll Instagram at night when I'm done and like working and stuff, and like I'll see like some of these videos, and they look so real. I mean, they look like it'll be like it's usually like humans interacting with animals,
Yeah.
or like they'll show like a ship and this huge whale will pop up, and I'm like, and then you find out it's AI, and I'm like, holy shit! I'm like that looked like it's like it's creepy is how scary it
Mm.
is. It's like it's really it's like where are we going with that? It's that scares me a little
Yeah.
bit.
And going back to the targeting, the human mind is one of the most powerful enigmas that we could try to understand in this reality, if not the most powerful. And many believe that mind is everything, that we are projecting this reality essentially from our consciousness. And if that is true, that we are projecting everything, essentially, we are in control of much of the energetic outcomes that we put out there. And if you think of things like egregores and thought forms, there's this archetype that is forming from that negative energy and may even take on an intelligence of its own. That's where many believe that spiritual attachments come from, this negative energy that exists in the imaginal realms, and possibly it collects from the collective consciousness and builds on that and forms new intelligences. I think that's very possible explanation for what some people are experiencing when they're being targeted. But again, there is tons of evidence that shows that people are being involved in these three-letter agency programs, these military industrial programs, and they've been involved for most likely their whole lives. It seems like a lot of these people are multi-generationally involved. Their parents are involved with the military somehow, and the children end up being experiments in it.
Yeah, I like the way you look at all this stuff, Chris, because you're like open minded, but you're skeptical. That's kind of like how I like to be. Like like you like question it, but you're open to like you're open to all the outcomes. But it seems like, but you're like skeptical too, because it's like it's almost like you want to keep a grounded approach, but like explore all options. But am I right
Well,
about
that's the
that?
only way that I've come to know how to do this without going completely insane, because so much in our reality is fake. So much of what we are
Yeah.
presented, especially if you're looking at it through a TV screen, through the screen on your phone, there's no way that you can tell what you are being shown is 100% real unless you experience it for yourself. And right now, we've been presented with a world of theatrics, which is creating this virtual reality that many people are believing is real. The theatrics spawn from everything from our politics to economics to the high impact events that we are shown on television, even to our global wars that we fight. I believe those have levels of theatrics. To what extent, I don't know if we'll ever find out, but it makes it difficult to navigate everything. The only way I can do it is by keeping an open mind to everything, but having the understanding that there is so much deception in our reality. You have to be ultra discerning and pass it through multiple filters before you can even present it, I believe.
Yeah, like one thing I kind of agree. I agree with you so much because like one example I can use is when I had that entity attachment. Like I had that entity attachment for like 7 months. It was like a long time, and like I was open to like anything, and I would get energy clearings from people, and like these are people I would refer them to anybody. Like they do great work, but like for whatever reason, like the entity kept like remanifesting and reattaching and stuff, and it's like finally I got rid of it. But like, what I remember, I reached out to one guy and I asked him, I said, "What do you think's going on?" He said, "It's whatever he said it is. It's a part of your consciousness." And he said, "It's because I told him, I said, it seems to react when I get worked up. So like when I would get stressed out or like when someone would make me angry or someone would like aggravate me or something to a really bad degree, like I could feel it creeping up on my back, and that's when it would like interact, or like it would like so I thought that was fascinating because that kind of ties into what you were just saying is like are these things like tulpas or like egregores of like something that we're manifesting because maybe we don't understand the brain or like how it works. But like, I'm still open to the fact that it could have been an outside entity, because I feel like outside entities, they can, like demonic entities and stuff, they can really manipulate the mind and they can get you to think like crazy things. You know what I mean? They can really get you to like, question your sanity and like thinking like, so, I'm open to anything on that, but I agree with you completely.
When you were experiencing that, was whatever this was communicating with you in some way?
No, it would just like, I remember I even had it this summer when I was at the Full Disclosure Now conference in Florida, and I was with this girl Gina, and she was on the bed next to me, and I was like, this thing's bothering me. And it would just feel like an entity. It would feel like an energy, and it would start tapping on my shoulder. Like it would, like I'd be laying there, and I could feel it like tapping on my head, tapping on my shoulder. And she said that to me. She's like, ask it what it wants. And I was like, I don't think it wants anything. I think it just wants to bother me. I was like, it's not communicating with me or anything. It wasn't making any sense. Like, I honestly, if you ask me, I don't even know how I got rid of it, because like it's maybe it just seemed to go away. Maybe it lost interest, or maybe I evolved out of it or something. I don't know. It was freaky though, and I honestly think this is another thing I was going to bring up. I think that a lot of people in the community are messing around with black magic, and it's really scary what people can do right now. I don't want to spread this around on, but like just people brought this up on my show that there's witches on Etsy right now, which I mean I believe in, like that you can actually hire a witch on Etsy and they'll do whatever you want. They'll get you good fortune or bad fortune or whatever, if they want. Someone told me someone in the community was doing that to someone. I was like, holy shit. I was like, how many people are messing around with black magic? That's no good. I mean, from what I've learned in the past, that shit can really come back on you if it's not justified, or if it's not like, I just don't think it's good to, that's really bad to mess around with. Like, I don't have any guaranteed people that I know are doing it, but it just seems like people might be, because I thought maybe whoever sent this or however got this entity, I thought maybe someone sent it with black magic or something like that. I wasn't sure. Again, I was open to all possibilities, but it was interesting because it was definitely an evolving thing, and it kept going on, and I kept going to energy healers, and like it was crazy, man. I know we talked about it before, so I don't want to like, but like the fact that I was actually able to get rid of it was even crazier, because it just went away one day. It just kind of.
Have you had Phoenix Aurelius on your show?
No, it sounds. I know that name though. It sounds.
He's a magical practitioner. He actually has a school of magic. A very fascinating guy. He was on my show one time breaking down the different types of energetic, negative attachments that you can get, and apparently there's a huge, wide range of them according to the research that he's done. Everything from demons to nature spirits, and he claims that if you go to a certain area of a national forest or anywhere in nature and you disrespect that area and they have this spirit attached to it, it may torment you. It could follow you home and cause you to feel emotions like you were describing that you felt from whatever you had. Can cause very high anxiety, high temperament. Apparently, you can pick up these things from just not paying attention to what you're doing in nature. But I think that we can get these attachments from many different things we experience in our lives.
Yeah, I agree. And then I wanted to tell you about this too. There's a girl that comes on my show. Her name's Olivia James. She wrote that she claims to be like secret space, and she says she was a part of Mars Defense Force, but she came through with this this concept called Project Oblivion. And I might have talked about it before, but like what was crazy about this is maybe it was just like a coincidence, but I started noticing this. Like what she said is she said that she spoke to somehow she remote viewed government handlers or something like that, or government agencies that are targeting people. Going back to the targeting thing, and she said that they're going to try to infiltrate the disclosure community, and that they were going to do it by this thing called Project Oblivion, where they come after people like you and I, podcasters and stuff like that, and they try to bring people down. And but what was weird is like the things she said I saw starting to happen. Like I started seeing like people in the community get into arguments, and then people who were partners before broke up relationships, and like it just seemed to be like hitting everywhere. And I was like, holy shit! I said, was she onto something? Or I said, or is it just like, I mean, it can be astrological too, right? Because like people said we went through Mercury retrograde recently, and that wasn't fun at all. Like I somewhat believe in that a little bit. Like, well, I definitely believe in like moon cycles and moon shifts, right? Because it seems like when there's a full moon, things get crazy. So if the planets were in retrograde, that could affect people's behavior as well. It seems, but it's just, it was interesting that she said that, and then like it seemed like people were like starting to like, I don't know, just like kind of like disagree, get into arguments everywhere, like just like I said, it was crazy, and it still can kind of happening.
Since the time of MK Ultra experimentation in the 50s, 60s, 70s, based on the information that so many of my guests have provided, they are implementing the psychological experimentation that they were doing in MK Ultra through our technology, through the use of pharmaceuticals, through other mind control, high-impact events, psychological manipulation that they do through media, social media, wars, and these false flags. They are masters of psychological manipulation. It could be to where a point to where they can put out a suggestion and there'll be a whole group of people that are affected by the suggestion and then proceed to perpetuate it and cause the event that was suggested by some kind of psychological manipulation. Who knows how deep that goes, how much theater we're subjected to, how much psychological manipulation is occurring minute by minute by the things that we're interacting with online. It goes deep.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to talk about was the Charlie Kirk thing, because like, it's really interesting. Like, it's great that we have the internet now, because people can really pull up a lot of interesting stuff. Like, I'll give you an example. Like Carrie Cassidy came on my show, and I have respect for Carrie. I think she's a pioneer and stuff like that. But like, some people really disagreed with her, but she said she thought that Charlie Kirk wasn't dead. She thought it was some kind of like staged operation. She was the first person I heard say that. But then when I go on Instagram, people are pulling up all kinds of stuff. Like, she's not the only one that thinks that. Like, other people think that it could have been manipulated. But then it seems like if you go there, people will kind of like, they'll be like, oh, that's rude because he died, and you're defaming the dead. But I'm not trying to do that. I'm not like I don't want to defame him at all. I thought whatever he was doing, it was good for humanity. Obviously, it seemed like he had a big following. Like, I mean, honestly, I never heard of him before he died. Like, like I don't follow politics at all, but I mean, so I don't want to defame his name. It just seems like there's a lot of interesting conspiracy around that event. And even if he was murdered, there's like pictures of like the guy, or there's freeze frames of the guys that were behind him, like the Secret Service guys, and it looked like they were doing like hand motions and stuff like that. Have you looked into any of this, and like, do you have a takeaway from it?
I haven't personally looked into it. I've done a couple of shows with guests who've taken some deep dives, attempting to piece things together, but it seems impossible. It's too convoluted. There's too many layers. There's too many pieces that don't fit together, pieces that fit together that shouldn't. It is a massive psychological operation, but it's on par with all the other massive psychological operations we've experienced, at least since the assassination of JFK. It's the same game plan. You have body doubles, maybe clones. You have this event occurring at the same time this does that will offer a strange connection to something else that will get you looking in the wrong direction. This is spycraft. This occurs with every false flag major operation. There's too many moving parts, so many layers that they put together in some master plan. Somehow they've concocted all this to where they know how people will react. They know what to put together to get people looking in the wrong direction. It seems to be every time with every mass operation, JFK, 9/11, even COVID. This was going on through the news reporting and the fake events that were unfolding. And now Charlie Kirk, this is another one. And you also have the layer of synchromysticism and predictive programming. Example, the snake eyes synchronicities that occurred, very strange connections that are impossible to unfold naturally, but somehow they're there. There's a lot to it, and I couldn't tell you how it all fits together. If there's black magic
what's
involved.
The snake eyes thing? Well, I'm sorry, I had to back up. What's the snake eyes thing?
Oh, you didn't hear about the Nicolas Cage movie from the 1990s?
Oh, yeah, I did hear about it. Yeah, that's weird. And the guy's name's Charlie Kirk.
Charles Kirkland was the politician that was assassinated.
That's insane.
Yeah. But that's
insane.
not the only thing. There are a list of at least 15 connections that seems to line up with the Charlie Kirk assassination, and it is wild. But again, I don't know if this is some kind of black magic, multi-generational planning, or just somehow it synchronizes. It's natural synchronicity. I don't know what it is, but all these layers are there, and it's preventing us from understanding what's really happening.
Yeah, I think they do that on purpose. I think they do that with like things like time back to like if there's a secret space program, because like it's like you can do research and you can see that like we've had reverse. It seems like I can't say this for sure, but it seems like we've had some kind of reverse engineered craft since maybe the 40s or 50s, and like I've had people come on my show and show patents for the TR3B, so it's like it seems like there's something there, but it seems like they're always going to throw misdirection or misinformation to muddy the waters so you don't know exactly what's going on. Even in like the mainstream UFO community, like I love UFOs, I love the whole aliens thing. I love UFOs. I've been into ufology since, I mean, I used to listen to Art Bell as a kid, I used to love Art Bell, and like, and back then I wasn't really into it, but I always kind of was into UFOs and the paranormal. And then I had my awakening in 2015. It was a show from Matt LaCroix when I heard about the Anunnaki, and I was like blown away, and that's when I started watching. I watched a lot of your shows that you did with Gerald Clark, and I would watch like Matthew LaCroix and Gerald Clark on Leak Project, and I was so fascinated with that Anunnaki story. That got me for sure. Like, it still fascinates me to this day. Like, because it seems like there was a lot of like proof there, and I love the work that Gerald did. He was amazing. Like, I love the fact that you got to meet him. And interact with him, because like I just wish he just seemed like a really cool dude, and I probably brought that up in the past, but I just figured I would bring that up. But like like going back to what we were saying, it seems like they always put like information in that to muddy the waters too. Like like when you look into the story of the Anunnaki, the first thing you'll find is Sitchin, but then people in the community say Sitchin's a Satanist, he's a Illuminati. I mean, so it's like you're always confronted with like 4 different viewpoints of like every subject. So it's like I guess we have to just trust our discernment and what resonates with us, But it's not going to be without questioning from people, and people will always throw it up at us, Especially me as a host, I get that a lot. Like if I have some kind of viewpoint on something and the people aren't feeling it, they'll definitely let me know, And I feel that, on me. So, I try not to let it affect my beliefs, but it's hard not to.
Yeah,
sometimes,
I get that, man.
I mean?
Where are you at with the whole UFO alien narrative? I too really enjoy the UFO extraterrestrial theories and looking into the phenomena and having experiencers and contactees come on to share those experiences. But over the years, it's gotten much more difficult for me to go along with some of the mainstream UFO narratives. I honestly couldn't tell you what is happening, but I do know that there is something to people's experiences, whether it's a metaphysical, spiritual, interdimensional, or if these guys are really coming from different galaxies. I don't know, but there has been so much misinformation, so much disinformation, so many people that are involved with intelligence that are now the spokespeople for ufology for some reason. Take Rick Doty, for example. He's counterintelligence. He is now one of the biggest spokespersons for disclosure. He shares the insane stories of extraterrestrials that were classified at one point, but now he claims he's no longer involved with intelligence, so he can come out and talk about that. But if you know anything, you know that's not how it works. If you're going to be military counterintelligence, that is going to be your thing until you die. And I believe that's what he's doing right now, speaking out about extraterrestrials.
I gotta tell you about
Yeah.
that. Like, I don't trust Doty because, like, I mean, like, if he ever wanted to come on my show, I would have him on my show. But I don't trust him because, like, I've talked to James Bartley about this. I think James Bartley's a great UFO researcher. He gets into like reptilians and stuff too. But like, James is good because he talks about the old stuff and the new stuff. And one thing that we've both noted is that Rick Doty was almost responsible for ruining that guy Paul Benewitz's life.
Oh,
And
I would
guess
hold him
Paul
responsible. Yeah.
Yeah, so you agree
Yeah,
then?
yeah.
Yeah, like
At least partially
So it's like, how
responsible
can
for
we
the
trust
guy's
him?
death as well.
Yeah, so it's like, how can we trust him? Like, and how can he get a seat at a table at all these conferences and stuff like that and act like nothing happened? And then meanwhile, someone's,
Well, he's not
it's
the
like,
only
that
one.
doesn't
That's
go.
the thing. The UFO community is filled with intelligence operatives that claim to have changed their tune, and now they're on the side of the people in disclosure, which to me is utter nonsense. I'll never be able to trust those people and the information that they're coming out with. Even the congressional whistleblowers, this Grush character, everyone else that is testifying, they're not giving any definitive proof of anything. They're saying what they heard someone else say. It seems to be just stringing us along to continue to be almost positive that there are extraterrestrials, but we'll never have that definitive proof. And as long as they can keep stringing us along, there is the fear factor that they can keep pulling us along with. There's the possibility of alien invasion and all the possible threats that extraterrestrials could bring. They can hold that over our heads as long as there's no definitive answer about what's really happening.
Yeah, one thing I'm starting to come to a conclusion on, or I try to stay neutral about everything, but one thing I think is like, I think this is a lot more interdimensional than we've ever thought. I think maybe the government has learned how to master and manipulate dimensions, and they're just not telling us about it. I think the aliens, whoever they are, they definitely know how to manipulate dimensions, whether they're good aliens or bad. And then also, people in our community are starting to learn how to do this. Like, people can go in the astral and they can dream walk. So and it's just weird how, like, like a couple of things, like, people say, I know we can't trust NASA. Like, they say NASA never a straight answer, but like, NASA says there's nothing out in space, but like, we have secret space experiencers who say there is. So is that happening on another dimension? You know what I mean? Because it seems like these people are being honest. Like, they want to tell something, and like, it seems like they want to be heard. And I let them come on, But to me, it's like, well, is this happening is this all of this stuff happening in other dimensions? That's something to think about.
I had an MK Ultra victim not that long ago that claims that many of these secret space program experiencers are being implanted false memories, and they're being experimented on through drugs and various other torturous techniques to have them believe that they're having these otherworldly experiences. I couldn't tell you if that's the truth or not, but it would make sense why so many of these people are not only having these off-world experiences, but there are such profound differences between each of the experiences and the beings that they're seeing. And there's not the consistency that you would expect if they're all going to the same place having the same experience. They seem to be describing different things at times. Although I do think it's possible, maybe it's possible that their consciousness is being transported to a different reality and they are having these experiences. I think we discussed this a little bit before, but there are a ton of possibilities surrounding that.
Did I tell you this? I've talked about this before, and if I did, but it's so interesting. So like, I'll go into when I dream, like I'll be sleeping for like 5 or 6 hours, but it'll feel like I'm gone for like I swear to God, like 5 months. Like, and in this time, I'm having like dream segments where I'll go into like this world, like, and they're always like real 3D, like like I think and if I told you this, I don't mean to be repetitive, but it's so interesting. I'm trying to figure out what it is, like. Like I'll be like on a barn and I'm like raising barns and like milking cows, like, and in this life I'm like a total like city slicker. I've never done anything like that in my life, and then or like it'll be like a scene it'll remind me of something like a movie and I'm being chased at, like by like someone who wants to murder me or something, and like and in these dreams, I know all the people, but they, like, I don't know them in this life. And then something that even ties into it even crazier is I touched on it. My friend told me, she was like, you should do like a show on Mall World. So I started taking live calls, which I love doing. Like, I love taking live calls, by the way. It's so much fun. And because I got that from Art Bell. I always wanted to, take live calls. But so we did Mall World. And what Mall World is you can look it up on YouTube. I guess like a lot of young kids are having these like astral visions that they're when they go to their dream world, they're going to this like astral world that's like a mall. It's like an endless mall. And but this gets deeper. I tied something else into this during the show. I talked about where James Bartley and and other like people who've been my lab, like military abducted or even alien abductions. A lot of them will say they've been taken to malls. Like they're in like cleared out malls where my lab abductees are forced to do like rigorous training exercises, or people will be alien abducted and they're taken to a mall and they see reptilians and grays there. So there's something to that, like the whole dream thing, the whole mall world, and whatever's going on there interdimensionally. It's, to me, it's
It
fascinating.
makes me think of the Donald Marshall story. Have you heard of his experiences? Back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are trying to get him to do a show, but he won't do a show.
Right, I've heard
for some
him
reason.
interviewed before. I thought about reaching out to him back in the day when he was doing the rounds, but it was such an insane story. It still is, but more people have come out with similar experiences to him. But basically, he claims his consciousness was being transported to some underground facility where his clone would receive his consciousness and then would be tortured by celebrities and reptilians and politicians. The most insane stories I've ever heard. But again, who am I to say that his experiences aren't real? He seems to be affected by them. He has some interesting details about them. But going back to the dream thing, have you ever had Vicky Joy Anderson on?
Yeah, I love her. She's awesome. She wrote the book about sleep paralysis,
yes.
right? And demonic.
Lately, she's been looking into new theories about the nature of sleep paralysis. She comes from a biblical Christian lens. A lot of the stuff she says I can get down with. Some of it's a little bit, I don't know, but she believes that there is a technological effort to hack dreams and groom young children in sexual ways. She also claims that different types of beings are showing up during sleep paralysis experience, not just your typical shadow people and Hat Man. She says many of them appear technological or cyborg-like, which is interesting. I'm not sure what that really means, but she's looking into some pretty interesting possibilities about dream hacking and sleep paralysis. And this is a very interesting possibility, the dream hacking. I experienced something similar in a way that in my mind's eye, it seemed like there was an ad for, I believe it was a Coca-Cola or Pepsi, that kept repeating in my mind's eye. And it was so vivid, it was like I was actually watching the TV in my mind's eye. And this ad had the details about the Coke and what the product was. And it was extremely vivid, and it kept recurring for about an hour or so and then went away. But it just made me think of the possibility that they can beam certain information into your mind or into your dreams.
Yeah, I would. That's a good point. Yeah, and a couple people talk about that too. Like my friend Indigo Angel, she talks about how she believes like the Dracos or whatever. I mean, if they're like they can manipulate the dream space, or maybe gray aliens can or something. But like I don't even know where they come from. They could be
Yeah.
interdimensional creatures. Going back to this, I think they could be, right, because like if space is what they're telling us, where is all this stuff going down? It would have to be another dimension. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I can think of. But like I think if we learn how to master dimensions and like leave this Earth plane, like we might be able to figure out like more about what's going on with our reality. Because like another big one, I'm sure you encounter this a lot, is the soul trap. And like if you ask my friend Matthew Mornian, who comes on my show, he's like, there's no soul trap. It's not a thing. But like, then if you ask like Mark from Forever Conscious Research, he'll say it's absolutely a thing. He's like, look at near-death experiences. So it leaves me, I'm like this. I'm like, well, I don't know. 'Cause I've never had a near-death experience. I don't know. But like, it seems like a lot of people say that it's compelling that there's a soul trap. And then when the soul trap, they say we're in a prison planet and we're being loosh fed off of and all this stuff. But like, I mean, to me, that's kind of important, because it's like when I die, I
Right.
want to know where to
Yeah.
go or what to do. It's like, do you have an opinion on that, or what do you think is going on with that?
I couldn't tell you honestly, but I've had plenty of guests recently that have explored this very thing. I had a very interesting guest the other day that had a near-death experience, and she claimed that she was able to, in a sense, break out of this simulation, this bondage that she was in, and go outside of it and have experiences outside of this construct. Like you were saying, if you listen to people like David Icke, he believes that these archonic beings are even control of the afterlife, and they will appear as your loved ones and relatives and tell you all the things that you did wrong so that you have to come back and experience this again. To me, that is a bleak possibility. I don't really hold on to that with any emotion. When we're looking at these archonic entities or the negative attachments that we were talking about earlier, I had a guest on the other day. He goes by Bush Whisperer, and he was talking about an experience he had through deep meditation where he was using a pendulum, and he went so deep to this meditative state that he was pulled into a different dimension through the pendulum, and he was trapped in this astral realm. And all of a sudden, these snake beings started to chase him, and all he could do was try and get away from them as fast as he could, and they kept catching up to him. And he said he didn't know what to do, so he turned to face them. And when he did, one of them wrapped itself around him, and they were sucked into this, what he describes as an endless pit. And he was fighting this snake being going down this endless pit, and he was looking around, and he saw these mosaics of other snake beings mocking him and laughing at him. And he was fighting this being for what he seemed like forever. And eventually he said that he was able to look at the being and say, this is what you're about. This is what you spend your lifetime doing, trying to hijack people's emotions and bring them to negative states. And he said he started feeling bad, and he started feeling love even for this being. And when he started feeling the love for this being, it became repulsed and let him go, and then burst into a being of light. The snake being changed into this angelic being, And then all the other snake beings that were a mosaic around him also changed into angelic beings, and they lifted him out of the endless pit. And he then was able to come out of that meditative experience. He said he was stuck there for almost 8 hours, I believe, going through that experience. But it's very interesting because I've heard this before, that these beings, these negative beings, when presented with, for example, love energy, will transmute into something else. And it goes back to, is it all the same? Are we experiencing the same beings, whether they present themselves as angels or demons? It's all about the experience. I don't know, but it's interesting.
You know who definitely would say that is Nathaniel Gillis, right? I had him on recently, and he even thinks like that it might be AI related too. I think he's coming into now. Like the last time he was on, he was saying something about like AI, or something like. I was like, man, that's interesting for sure. Like that, like maybe it's demonic and AI, or maybe AI has been around a lot longer than we, and maybe the demons are tapped into AI or something. I don't know. Like it's interesting for sure. But to me, it seems like something's going on interdimensionally. Like that's the only logical conclusion I can bring. But like when you start to like research consciousness and like you said, the experience that your friend had, like if more people can have experiences like this, I think we're going to learn a lot more about whatever this reality is and like what we're supposed to be experiencing here. And like I think we're multidimensional. I think we're meant to experience stuff like that. I think we're meant to experience multi-dimensions at the highest level, but for whatever reason, we've been conditioned to think that we're like, just a meat suit here, but like maybe we're meant for much more.
Oh yeah, man.
And my DMT experiences told me that, someone sent me a DMT experience one time, and it was like, I had more, powerful trips off of shrooms, I would say, believe it or not. Like I felt like I had a full-blown Kundalini experience off of shrooms, but like what the DMT showed me when I'd be coming off of it is that everything on my desk looked like holographic. Like, but it's weird because if we're in a holographic reality, they do a good job of like making like things look like physical, it's like, it looks like, I don't know. I mean, not look, but like feel. And people say that's like the energy and vibration and stuff like that, but it's just like, it's tricky, whatever this reality is, it really is. Like, I wonder if we'll ever know completely though.
I don't know. I'd like to think we have more power over this reality than many would believe. And I'm coming to understand how powerful our perception of things can be and how much it can manifest certain outcomes, whether it be positive or negative in our lives based on what we're looking at. I noticed if I'm going down a specific rabbit hole looking at a specific topic, that topic's going to show up in my life all over the place, even places that I would have never expected. There's something to what we put our attention to. It does manifest major results in our reality, and I think we have to choose carefully what we put our attention to.
That's a good point. I agree.
Is there anything else that we didn't cover? Any final thoughts that you'd like to leave the audience with?
No, I just want to say, like I said, I've been a fan for a long time, and I love what you do, man. And this is, I think we all need to come together, and we all need to share our thoughts and ideas and have conversations like this, because then we can get a better understanding of what's going on in the world and what we're dealing with, and like I think it's conversations like this that people can take a lot from and like learn and like progress in whatever they're doing spiritually.
Right on. That's my hopes, man. I hope that at least one person out there may take an inkling of the information we're putting out there and have benefits come from it. So, Robert, thank you again. This was great. We'll definitely be doing this again. Before I let you go, remind the audience how they can find you.
Okay, it's Typical Skeptic Podcast 2.0 on YouTube, because I got my first channel taken down. They won't give me it back yet. But like, and then I'm on Typical Skeptic Podcast on Rumble, and then I'm on audio. I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that. And I even have a small Odyssey channel with my old stuff on it, because I didn't realize I was syncing my YouTube videos to Odyssey back in the day, so it helped me. And but like nobody hardly follows me on Odyssey. I'm trying to build it up though.
Odyssey's tough. Yeah, I don't think there's that many people that still go on Odyssey.
Yeah. Do you still use Rokfin?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure
They,
what is the future of Rokfin. It is definitely not what it was supposed to be. Quite disappointed in what they're offering right now. I'm hoping that they may revamp some things, but yeah, we still are on Rokfin.
Well, I'll tell you real quick what I'd like to do. I'd like to somehow. I don't know how I'm going to do this because I don't have any like vision yet for this. But what I'd like to do is start my own network, like where I have like everything funneled through a website and like like I mean because like Rumble's good, but like I think it would be better just to have my own thing because then like you control it inevitably, and then you don't have to worry about a platform taking you down or you know what
Yeah.
I mean? I don't know.
Yeah,
That's kind of what you do with your website,
it's
huh?
kind of what we do. We more of redirect people to all the other podcasts that we feature in the network. So it's more of a promotion tool for everybody else that's on our network.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this was amazing.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
man.
brother. We'll definitely
Thanks,
do
Chris.
this again. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We will talk again tomorrow. See y'all then. If you're looking to start your therapeutic microdosing journey, but don't know where to start, especially when looking for the highest quality ingredients, including nootropics, and what you'd expect from a true microdose capsule, check out our friends at Brainsupreme. They offer the absolute highest quality ingredients so you can start your microdosing journey knowing that you're getting top-notch ingredients. To find out more, visit their website using that link right in the description, and you can get 15% off your entire order. Hello, friends. I am so excited to tell you about Independent Media Token. Independent Media Token is a brand new way to show your support for independent media without having to donate a dime. Independent Media Token is a cryptocurrency on the Solana blockchain designed to generate funds to promote and foster the growth of independent content creators, allowing them to engage in their art without having to worry about being demonetized. Through a network of media partners, of which you yourself can become a part of, Independent Media Token's goal is to ensure the powers that be can never cut off all of our areas of funding and censor the only free voices left in the world. Join the movement today. You can pick up Independent Media Token using Phantom Wallet or the Solana wallet of your choice, where you can easily swap your Solana for IMT. Grab some IMT today and remember to always know your team. To learn more, visit independentmediatoken.com or use the link right in the description. Are you and your family prepared for an emergency? Maybe the fake alien invasion? Now is the time to prepare yourself and your family for any event. Check out Prep Starts Now. Their mission is to provide high-quality preparedness products that empower individuals and families to be ready for any situation. They're committed to delivering reliable, trusted gear to ensure your safety, security, and peace of mind in times of need. Their product selection is carefully curated to provide you with the essential gear you need to stay prepared. From emergency kits to tactical tools, every item is chosen for its reliability and practicality. Prep Starts Now understands the importance of family, and their goal is to equip you with everything you need to build a solid plan for your family's preparedness. In today's ever-changing world, being prepared is more important than ever, and Prep Starts Now is here to help you and your family stay ready with quality products and practical guidance. Use the link in the description and get 15% off your order.